Hello folks, I hope you're having a great day today. Today we're going to be taking a look at a new author for this channel, somebody I've never read before, Margaret St. Clair, who his 5-page short story, The Man Who Sold Rope to the Gnoles, is in my collection here, in the Appendix N collection that I've been reviewing for you. This is actually the last short story, or novella, or novel in one case, in this collection that I have not already read, and all the ones that I had read prior I've already reviewed. There were several of these that were new. I have reviewed all the new ones. At 5 pages, this is tied with the Lynn Carter opening piece for the shortest short story in this. Many of the short stories in here are longer. They're 20, 30 pages long, and they have some depth to them and so forth. The Man Who Sold Rope to the Gnoles is written and published in 1951 in the Magazine of Science Fiction and Fantasy. Margaret St. Clair was born in 1911. She died in 95. She lasted a long time and had a big imprint in the speculative fiction genre, specifically science fiction and fantasy. She wrote tons and published tons of short stories during the pulp era, particularly in the 40s and 50s when she had a lot of her big things. A couple of her short stories were turned into episodes in Rod Serling's Night Terrors. Another one was turned into one of the Terrors ones that was on a competing channel that was competing at the time with the Twilight Zone and the Night Terrors kind of thing. So she did have some of her things that were turned into stories on the television in the early black and white days of the television genre. So she did have an impact. This short story, The Man Who Sold Rope to the Gnoles, is very heavily anthologized, and according to my research, and is warmly regarded. Now, the Appendix N collection is interesting because it was published in 2020. It is a call out and with a reprint of Appendix N from the 1979 publication of the first Dungeon Master's Guide by Gary Gygax in the DM in Dungeons and Dragons. And in this, he has a variety of appendices, and one of these appendices is for inspirational and educational reading. The idea is that these are the ones that influenced where he got his ideas that inspired him to create Dungeons & Dragons, and through that modern fantasy, which is all modern fantasy, whether it's comic books or movies or television shows or novels or short stories or even poems have been influenced by Dungeons & Dragons and its predecessors. And so he has a lot of those sorts of things. But Margaret St. Clair, if you'll take a quick look here at the Appendix N reprint that's back here, and you'll also note the story that this was republished in the afterword. It doesn't show up. So unfortunately, Margaret St. Clair is not somebody. Let me take a quick look just to make sure. Yes, actually she does. But not these two, not this story. She's name called. Some authors are given name calls for a specific work or two that influenced it. And some authors are just given general things like H.P. Lovecraft or J.R. Tolkien. So she is mentioned in here, which is pretty good. She's very influential in the genre. She's one of the early females in the genre, too, and she had a lot of influence. She actually has a quote that I thought was pretty cool that I found when I was doing some research on Margaret St. Clair that said that she was... she had unlike many other pulp writers in the speculative fiction genre, she didn't, or who were writing for a lot of these, these Western pulps and so forth. She didn't have dreams of like making it to the big times, like a lot of her peers did. She was very content just to go ahead and have she thought that she was more capable of being a pulp writer. That she had less constraints. She could do more things and have a stronger story by writing it in the pulps than writing in some of the more higher style stuff. So she never really wanted to do that, and I admire her for that. I admire her a lot. This short story, again, it's only five minutes long, so I won't take too much of your time with it. But basically, the key concept this is a modern fantasy story where some fantasy elements are taking place in the modern day, and a modern salesperson who sells for a rope company has taken a case of rope and done some research on Gnoles and on salesmanship prior, and he's going to take a case and he's going to go try to sell rope to the Gnoles. And that's it. That's basically the key concepts of the short story. Again, it's only 5 minutes long. Now, just as an FYI, I will now be done with this collection. I'll link you to it in the comments below. I have reviewed for you, before I started reading this novel, Jewels in the Forest by Fritz Lieber, Empire of the Necromancers by Clark Ashton Smith, Turgeon of Myr by Jack Vance, Tower of the Elephants by Robert Howard, Song of Swords by Fred Saberhagen, The Dreaming City, which is in the Elric Saga by Michael Moorcock, The Doom That Came to Sarnath by Lovecraft. I'd also done Manly Wade Wellman's Straggler from Atlantis. I had also done Black God's Kiss by C.L. Moore, which is in the Northwest, which is in the Smith collection of that guy. And I've also done recently for you, actually, The Fortress Unvanquishable Save for Saganoth by Lord Dunsany. So I'd already done all of those short stories. As you can see here, there's only 16 publications that are short stories that are in here. I think I've done more double digits of them. I've only 5 or 6 of them were new for us, and we've now finished it up. Again, I'll link you to this. This will be the last time I take a look at this collection for you. And its influence on, and this ability to take a look at, and a quick pause into the Appendix N, and its impact on modern fantasy through Dungeons & Dragons and Gary Gygax, and inspirations and educational readings thereof. So there you are. I'll go ahead and leave you this Margaret St. Clair thing. I definitely liked it. I'd probably be giving it 7 or an 8. Let me think. It's between a 7 or an 8. It's probably more like a 7.3 or a 7.4. So I'm probably going to be giving it more of a 7. But again, it was 5 pages. I didn't have a whole lot of time to read it. I definitely liked Margaret St. Clair, what she was bringing to the story, and in this, this urban modern fantasy. So again, I would probably give it probably a 7-ish out of 8 with a. But if you wanted to give it an 8 or a 10 or whatever, or maybe just a 2, I would not be. I'm not going to go out of my comfort zone in order to do that. If you've read it, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. I would be open to reading some more stuff by Margaret St. Clair. If I might at some point in time pick up a collection by her or something like that, because of how influential she was and because she's on the Appendix N and that sort of a thing. So I do like those sorts of things. But again, as of right now, I'm glad that I read her. And I did enjoy it, and I'm giving this a 7-ish out of 10. So there you are. What do you think of this short story? If you've read it, if you'd like to talk about it further in the comments below, whatever your take is on it, or or my take on it, I would be more than happy to engage with it further in the comments below. If you like this video, why not hit that subscribe button? Because there's going to be a lot more of these to follow. And then finally, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.